Hi, everybody. We're back with another writing webinar today. Today, we're going to be talking about resumes. What is a resume? Why do you need one? How do you make one? Why is this applicable to our lives if you are in middle school or high school? Why is this something that you should learn about writing now if you're not going to be trying to get a job until later in your life? We're going to talk about all of those subjects. Let's see who we have here today. I see Ariana, Fallon, Jake, Lila. I see Logan, Mason, Ron Beer. I see more people coming in. Welcome, everybody. If I haven't called your name out yet because you're coming in after we got started, hi to you too. Yeah, as always, if you have any questions, you can put those in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and we'll try to answer those questions as they come up. I'll be looking at the Q&A box kind of in between the different parts that we talk about. So if I use any terms you don't know, or in one of the examples that I put on the screen, you don't understand something, feel free to jump in there, describe it, what your question is, or what you're asking about, and we'll make sure that we answer that. Okay. So Fallon says, hello again. Hi, Fallon. Good to see you back. All right, so here we go. Resumes. So what is a resume? It's kind of a funny word. It's often written with these little marks over the E's. That's because the word comes from, I believe, French. So the first question is, what is a resume? A resume is a description of you, your skills, your education. It's a lot of information about you that you can give to a company or an organization that you're interested in working for. Organizations that have openings for jobs, or even for internships, or sometimes even for volunteer opportunities, can get a lot of people asking to work for them, or asking to volunteer for them, or be an intern for them. So a resume is a written description about you that you can give to them so that they can look it over and decide who they're interested in having come in and fill that position in their organization. Why we should start thinking about this right now is under the topic of what I call preparing for the life you want right now. Even if you're in middle school or high school, you are at the part of your education where you can start thinking about what kind of life you want to have in the future. One of the big purposes for your education right now can be getting ready for the things that you want to do once you're an adult. A lot of people, that can kind of stress them out. Thinking about the future or thinking about what they want to do when they grow up is not a fun subject to think about. Other people know exactly what they want to do, or they have a lot of ideas of what they want to do. I think it's totally okay to change your mind as many times as you want to right now about what you want to do when you grow up, or what kind of careers or jobs you're interested in. But I also think it's important to start working on some ideas. It's important to start preparing yourself for potential things you could do as a job in the future. What forms does that take? Well, one of them is getting a really good education. I think one of the purposes of a good education, I call it opening doors. A lot of students will ask, why do I need to study math? I don't plan to use a lot of math when I grow up. Or why do I need to study science? I don't think I want to be a scientist when I grow up. I think the purpose of studying a lot of subjects in middle school and in high school is that you're opening doors. And what I mean by that is you're studying things right now that you're opening a door, that you're creating an opportunity for yourself to do more in that area later in your life. If you study math in middle school and get really good at it, you will probably have a much better time studying math in high school, and it'll be a lot easier for you to study it in high school. And then it'll be a lot easier for you to study it in college after high school. If you have a lot of trouble with math and you don't get good at math in middle school and then in high school, math is probably going to be really tough for you when you're in college or as an adult. And then the jobs that you're interested in doing as an adult, you are limiting yourself if you've closed those doors off when you're younger. It can be very difficult for an adult who suddenly decides, let's say you're 25 years old and you suddenly decide, I think I'd really like to be a doctor. Well, a doctor has to study a lot of science, and science has a lot of math in it. So if you never were good at math in middle school or high school and you paid as little attention to it as possible, it's going to be very difficult probably for you to shift gears and try to get good at math as a grown-up if you never really liked it or tried to pay much attention to it all throughout your school. So talking about resumes right now and learning about resumes right now, I think it's a good way for us to start thinking about what you might want to do when you grow up and how you can prepare for that. Because what you're going to see in writing a resume is that it's a thorough description of kind of you and what you're good at, what your education is, and why an organization should pick you over a lot of other people. Because here's another very valuable piece of information that I want you to really understand. Most of the really awesome things that are out there in the world that it's possible to do as a job, the more awesome it is, the more fun it is, the better paying that job is, the more people want to do it. So if there's some really awesome job out there that you're already thinking like, I think I'd really love to be an actor or an actress, or even like a firefighter or something that you think would be really awesome to do as a job. If you think it's awesome, there's a great chance that a lot of other people want to do that same thing. So when you get done with school, whether that means finishing high school and then jumping into a career, or if that means going to college and getting more education and then going into a career, the jobs that you're going to want to do are going to have a lot of other people that also want to do them and are competing with you to get that job. That means it's actually going to be like a game or a contest where you're going to try to win. You're going to try to get the company to pick you over other people. And the resume that you write is going to be a written physical document that you're going to give them, possibly before you ever meet the person at the job that you want to do, that says, this is why you should pick me. This is why I'm the best person for the job. You kind of have to have some confidence when you write that. You have to be able to say to that company or that organization, I am your best choice. You're going to regret it if you don't pick me because I will do the best job. But how can you say that if you don't actually have the skills and education to back it up? So for all the things that you might be interested in doing when you grow up, you can start preparing right now to give yourself the education and give yourself the experience and the skills that will lead up to you being the best person for that job. And if you say, well, there's actually a lot of things that I'm interested in doing and I don't know which one, that's fine. That just means you need to get busy right now in middle school or high school, learning about a lot of areas, opening a lot of doors, doing your best to do a great job in school or in whatever form of education you're doing. Right now you're watching webinars at home, and basically just gaining as much information as you can, trying to, if you don't naturally feel interested in math, try to figure out what about math you could be interested in. Try to find the parts that are interesting to you and really put a lot of yourself into that. Try to get interested in science. Try to get interested in social studies and geography. Every subject that you get really interested in and you put a lot of yourself into really understanding, it's another door that you're opening that as you get older, go to high school, go to college, those doors will be open. You might, a friend is taking a class in some subject you never thought of, architecture or something, and you decide, I'm going to try that class out too. And you find out you opened the math door, you opened the drawing door, you have some skill in math, you have some skill in drawing and using computers. And then you can walk through that door and be like, I love this subject. This is what I really want to do. So that's the first thing that I want you to take away from this discussion today is opening doors, really giving yourself the education and the opportunities right now that you have a lot of opportunities when you're older. There's a lot of possibilities for you, okay? So with that said, we can talk about what a resume actually is. So a resume, as we briefly discussed, it's a written description of you, your education, your skills, your past jobs, and other important, oh, I'm sorry, that should probably say information. Anyway, it tells a company or an organization why they should hire you. So why are those individual things important? Again, a company that, let's say you really want to work for Google. You know, they're a big technology company. They work on lots of really interesting projects involving the internet and computers. Google works on everything from mapping technology with satellites to they have, Google, they have a music service. They have a internet store that sells games. Google works in a lot of areas doing a lot of really interesting things. But, and they pay really well. And they have lots of interesting things when you work for them. There's lots of like free food and other things that they provide. So it's a really interesting job for a lot of people, and a lot of people want to work for them. So if you want to work for them and you're going to create a resume to try to get a job with them, you have to basically explain to them why your education was a good education, like why they should consider you based on that. What your skills are, like what you know how to do, like what skills do you have that will be valuable to them. Maybe you received some academic awards in school or in college. So being able to tell them like, I am the best, I got all these awards, I have this education, I have these skills. You're basically, in a way, you're kind of like a salesperson and the product is you. Just like a salesperson in a store might say like, look at the, let's say you go to buy a car, with your parents. Have you ever been when your parents are trying to decide on a big purchase and there's a salesperson there saying like, this car is the best one in the lot. It's got leather seats. The engine works great. They're telling you all the reasons like, this is the one, you should go for it. Well, with a resume, you're that person, you're the salesperson, but you're trying to convince them that they should spend money on you. You're trying to say, I'm the right person for the job and you should hire me. You should pay me money because of all the great things I'm going to do for your company or your organization. So here are the parts of a resume that are important. Oh, let's see. Fallon shares that he's interested in being, they're interested in being an artist. That's awesome. Thanks, Fallon. Okay, so what goes in a resume? Just like some of the other rules of writing that we've gone over in other writing classes we've done, there are no rules. There's only suggestions. And that can be a funny thing about a lot of different types of writing, but it's true for resumes too. There are a lot of suggestions. There are no exact rules, but here are some of the suggestions. Your resume should include what your education is. That means and it's usually by the time you're applying for a job, you'll often be putting down like what college you went to. But if you graduate from high school and then you go, let's say you want to be an actress or an actor and you want to do that straight out of high school, you would probably include what high school you went to. Maybe if you took some acting classes, you could put that down. If you went to like summer camps where you took acting workshops, your education is you're first off, you're telling a company, I went to school, I received education. It also tells them I can stick with things, like I can go to school or college or summer camps or anything else and see it through. I can start something and finish it. That's one thing companies like to see. You should probably include a list of what your skills are. Your skills could be things that you learned in school, but maybe things that you learned outside of school. Maybe you taught yourself computer programming. You might not have taken a college class for that, but maybe you taught yourself. You would definitely, even if in college, maybe the main thing that you studied was art, you would want to put down that you studied art in college, but in a skills section, you would want to put down that you were a computer programmer. Maybe you want to work at a company designing websites. They would probably love to see that you have skills in art and that you have skills in computer programming, because both of those things will be important for designing websites. Job history. What that means is it's just a list of all the other jobs you've had, or at least the most recent ones. Companies, if you've had other jobs that you've done, they usually like to know what those jobs were. This is especially important once you're an adult and you've had a few jobs. If let's say once you're 30 or 40 years old, they'll expect that you've already been working at other jobs for a while, and they're kind of interested in how did it go at those jobs. I know all of you will work very hard and do well at your jobs, but a company might not be as interested in hiring somebody that, for example, didn't do so well at their last jobs and got fired a whole bunch. You want to, work hard at your jobs and then be able to put down on a resume that these are like the last 2 jobs that I had and I did great, but now I'm like looking for something new. I'm really interested in working at your company, but this was like the last 2 companies that I worked at. Kind of a sub part of that one, they'll, on a resume, you often put down some, people at those companies that you worked at, that the job that you're applying for, how they could kind of give that person a call and even ask them. Hopefully you did amazing at your last job, and the job that you're trying to get now, you're basically telling them, give them a call, ask about me. So when they call your last job tells them, this person is amazing. You'd be a fool not to hire them. So, and last of all, also very important, you always want to put your contact information. That means your phone number, your email address, because if this company is interested in hiring you, they have to get a hold of you, of course. If you turned in a resume that had all this great information about you, but they had no way of then calling you or emailing you to say, we're interested, that'd be a pretty big mistake. So you have to have your contact information in there. Fallon, she includes that languages that would be important. That's true. That could go under skills, because you're telling a company, like if you say, I speak English, but I also speak Spanish and I also speak French or German, I think a company would be really interested in that. They would love to know, oh, this is a person, let's say you speak Chinese fluently. They'd be like, oh, wow, we do a lot of work in China. We could send this person to China to do work there for us too. And they would know English and Chinese. So why we say that these are things you should include, but they're just suggestions, is that there's no like rule, there's no government rule that says this is what a resume has in it. This is the right way to do it. So different companies or different people have different ideas about what you should and shouldn't include. And what right now is like the normal resume, if you're in middle school right now, by the time you graduate from high school and college and you're ready to join the working world, the ideas on what the normal or what you should include might change a little bit. There might be a new website that hasn't even been invented yet. By the time you graduate from college, everybody is on this website and everybody uses it in the working world, and you would be foolish not to include that your contact information for that website. There might be things that we use right now that by the time you're applying for jobs, it's not the best advice to include that anymore. It's hard to say. So what's most important is that you kind of understand the basics of what goes in a resume. And when you're ready to write one for whatever job or opportunity you're interested in, that you kind of know how to have the general idea of what you're trying to do, but then you should definitely do research on your own. It's really important to look at the company or the organization that you want to work for and see if you can find out what they want to know about people working for them. Maybe you could even find out what other people that work there, what they put on their resumes. It's possible that information might be out there. But here are some, we're going to go over some examples. I went to a website. This was called, I think, resumegenius.com. And I just basically looked at a bunch of different examples of resumes. This one is for a flight attendant. Usually, if you were writing your own, you would have your own name up here at the top, and you wouldn't say from Resume Genius. That's just something that they put on there because they're advertising their own website. You wouldn't do that. Let's look down here what's actually on the resume though. Up here at the top, you can see that they put down their contact information as one of the first things. It's got a phone number here. It has an email address. It has a physical address so that mail could be sent to them. And this right here, it's a website link called linkedin.com. That is a website that a lot of people in the business world use. It's kind of like a social media. You could say it's almost kind of like a Facebook or another social media website, but it's specifically used for business people. You put all your information up there so that other businesses can learn about you and find out about you. But that's one of those websites that, I don't know, maybe in 5 or 10 years, maybe everybody's going to stop using LinkedIn. So by the time you graduate from college and you're writing a resume, maybe this is something that you're not going to include anymore. There might be something different by that point that you definitely should include, and you're going to need to research that on your own. Profile. This part on this resume, this person included kind of like a summary of them. It's like one paragraph that they're saying, like, I'm a flight attendant with 6 years of experience in domestic, that means within the country, and international, between countries, types of flight. By the way, there might be a few terms in these resumes that you don't understand. I don't know that we'll have time to clear up every single one because these are trying to be like examples of real life job resumes. For a specific job like being a flight attendant, it might use terms that, they use in the flight industry, the airline industry. If you're really curious about them, we could probably talk about the definitions of those, but you can also just understand for this one, these are flight attendant terms in here. Anyhow, they have here after that profile, they list out their experience. Here they say that they were a flight attendant with Delta Airlines. And it says that from the year 2016 till the present. So this person would give this resume to a new job that they were applying for, and they would lets them know, I started working at Delta Airlines in 2016 and I still work for them, but now I'm interested in working for you. Resumes, when they're listing job experience, they usually go backwards. They show, they don't start with the first job ever. They start with, this one is saying what they're doing right now. And then before that, they put the last job that the person was doing, and they kind of go in that order. If this person was, say, like 40 years old and they've actually worked at a lot of jobs, they don't include every job they've ever done. They usually just include the last few jobs they've done because the next job that they're applying for, that company probably isn't going to be really interested in what was going on 15 years ago. What they're interested in is, what job are you doing right now? How's it going right now? How did it go at the job before that? If it said right here, like they were at this job from like May, 2019 to like July 2019, and the next job was like, July 2019 to like October 2019, they might be interested, like, why did you only work at your jobs for like 2 months each? That might be something that's like, that sounds kind of weird. So, sometimes on like a resume, the person, they might leave off the times on there. Somebody giving you advice about your resume might say, just put down what jobs you did, leave off the times for now. That might be the best situation for you. As young people, when you're starting out your first job that you ever apply for, you won't have a job history. If you're just leaving college, you might not have worked a bunch of jobs while you were in college. So your resume might leave off a list of jobs like this. And instead it might say, these were clubs that I participated in. Or you might have a section where you talk about volunteer activities that you did. And you give a whole list of, I volunteered at this charity. Before that, I volunteered at this homeless shelter, or these were, these were clubs that I participated in at my high school and in my college. You might put down that you were part of your school student government, like I was part of the student council. So you basically are trying to put the information down on this resume that presents you in the best light and does the best job saying what you're good at, what your history is, why they should choose you. And that can look different on different resumes. Like here, this person did something really interesting. Right here, they list their education. It talks about that they went to this university. Right here, FAA certification. That means that this person, the Federal Aviation Administration, that means that they have from the government organization that kind of oversees, pilots and people that work in the airline industry, that they got a certificate from them. That's like education stuff. They're listing out what kind of certificates and university education they have. But down below, this is interesting. They have a key skills, and they've kind of made like there's these bars here, CPR and first aid. It's like totally full. English, Spanish, Italian, which I assume are all languages they speak. It's also high, but it's a little bit lower. Then skills, like they're saying they're tolerant and flexible. That one's all the way filled up to the right. Their organization skills, it's also pretty high, but it's one less. They're kind of making like a little chart here of their skills and their abilities. That's something interesting. I haven't seen that on a lot of other resumes before, but this organization, resumegenius.com, they apparently think that's a good idea to include. So that might be something fun that you could do. Let's look at another one. This is going to be for, here's one for a nurse. Up here at the top, again, it wouldn't say nurse, resume sample. It would like be the person's job. The person's name. But down here, they start theirs off with a resume objective. Objective means like your goal or like what you're trying to accomplish. So they talk about themselves a little bit, and then they say, aiming to leverage my experience and knowledge to effectively fill the nursing position at your hospital. What they're basically saying is that they want to use their skills to work at this job that they're applying for. So they've listed their objective right up top. They have their contact information over here. This person put their social media, their Facebook, their Instagram, their Twitter. See, I brought up this example, but I don't know that I would advise putting your Instagram and Facebook and Twitter on a resume. This person did, because apparently they feel for their job that that's something about themselves that they wanted to include. I don't know that I would advise putting your Instagram and your Facebook and everything up there, unless you've like kind of carefully made your Facebook and your Instagram and your other social media to really present you how you want to appear to a company. If you and your friends do take really silly pictures and put them on social media and stuff, I probably wouldn't include that, because I don't know that I want the job that you're applying for to be looking at, your Instagram, unless if you're a photographer and you put up a lot of really awesome pictures that you've taken on your Instagram, definitely include that on your resume. Because again, you're trying to present yourself to this company or organization and say, this is why you should hire me. So if you're a photographer, you want to include your Instagram and maybe your own website where you put up all your photography. You would probably want to list out, I have sold, my photography services to this newspaper and this magazine. All of these organizations have already published my photos. Very important to include that kind of stuff. So this person also included their work experience, where they have worked at as a nurse before at Virginia Veterans Hospital. They were an assistant nurse at the Carolinas Medical Center. So again, they included like the last two jobs that they've done. They include a list of their skills here. Down at the bottom, they mention what their university education is. So yeah, that's another pretty basic resume. Let's pick something pretty different, an acting resume. Now this person, because up here at the top where it says acting resume sample, they would put their name. usually. But this person is an actor and he wants people to hire him for acting jobs. So he has included a picture of himself. That's important. You want them to see what you look like because, you know, acting is a job where what you look like has a lot to do with, you know, getting the job or not. So this person has included a picture, whereas normally you don't include a picture of yourself when you're applying for most jobs. He has his contact information right up at the top. He has his education. He has a college degree in acting from a very famous, you know, acting school. So he definitely included that. He included that he has taken acting lessons at this acting studio. So that's good information to include. Down here, bio, that means like, you know, these are my statistics. Here's my eye color. Here's my height. Maybe, you know, maybe this movie that he's, you know, giving his resume to, maybe they want somebody really tall or somebody, they actually need somebody really short for a role. So he's including all the information about himself. For this resume, he has a bunch of like movies or TV shows that he has been in. There's a list of all of them here, and then what companies made those movies or TV shows. Voice credits means like these were like cartoons or other things that he did his voice in. You didn't see him, but his voice is in those. Down here at the bottom, he's saying that he is fluent, means he can like, you know, he's really, really, really good at speaking Spanish. Conversational in French means he's not the best, but he can also speak some French, like enough to have a conversation. That he's a singer. He can do these accents, like he can pretend to be French or Spanish. So this is all vital information for an actor. You'll notice that this resume does not look like the resume for a nurse. It does not look like the resume for, you know, the first one that we looked at for the flight attendant, because it's going to look different based on what job you're going for. If Tom decides he doesn't want to be an actor anymore and he actually wants to get a job in an office, you know, working at a, you know, a desk job, his resume, he would change it. He would write a new resume that would probably look a lot like, more like those last resumes we looked at. All right, looks like there might be a couple questions here. Let me look through the Q&A box real quickly. Yeah, so Fallon includes that. Yeah, she's saying that if you're doing different jobs in like acting or art, you usually want to give examples of what you did. That's a really good point. One viewer said, it's probably, this is back when we were talking a little bit about social media, that it might be a good idea to have kind of like a personal social media account that only your friends and family see. And you can kind of just post silly pictures or fun pictures. And to also have a social media account that is more public. Like you might have a private Instagram page where you take pictures of like, you know, you like playing with your dog and you're like, you know, wrestling around on the ground and it's funny. But you might have a public social media account that's more like professional pictures, more things that you want a company to see. This one, because maybe you took pictures of like volunteer work you did, or maybe you put up examples of work that you've done on that social media account. So it's kind of like saying, here is my sort of, you know, public life on this social media account for everybody to see. And you might have a private one that's more just like the selfies that you take and like the other just kind of fun stuff that you do with your friends. I think that's a really good idea. Okay, good. So we have a few more minutes. I thought we could look at a few more examples. We'll look at one more resume example here. One more job. This is for a chef. Let's do that one. So this chef's one looks a lot like some of the other ones where they don't do a headshot. I mean, they don't have a picture of themselves because it's not really important what a chef looks like. They give their objective at the top. They give their skills, and here they describe different types of food that they're really good at cooking. They say they're good at Latin American food. They're good at baking, like pastries. But they also list here leadership as one of their skills, adaptability. They're saying that they're good at, like, changing based on what the situation is. They show that they were a chef here at this restaurant in New Orleans, and they give a list of the different things that they did. It's kind of like you can almost hear in these points under the job, you can kind of, in a professional way, in a respectful way, brag about yourself a little bit. Tell them why you were so good at that job. And you don't want it to sound like you're arrogant or that you are bragging, but this person says that they were responsible for redeveloping the entire menu in 2015, that they increased the sales, like the amount of money coming in, by 150%. That's huge. If I was running a restaurant and I needed to hire a chef, if this person really was responsible for making the sales go way up with the awesome food that they cooked, I'd be really interested in talking to that person. This person says that they were responsible for interviewing and hiring all the other kitchen staff at this restaurant for like the last 5 years. That's huge. A person that I could hire that would really take responsibility for doing all these jobs in the kitchen, that would make me really interested in them. Oh, and they even say that they were referenced in Top Chefs of 2016. Good stuff. Okay, so those were some example resumes. One more thing that is important is what is called a cover letter. And you should include a cover letter when turning a resume in. If you were in one of our earlier seminars on writing, we talked about writing professional emails and we talked about writing professional letters and what should kind of be included in a professional letter. This is one of those situations where you want to be able to write a really good, really professional letter. A cover letter is basically a written communication from you to that company saying you're interested in the job that they have and you want to apply for it. And you can basically introduce yourself a little bit and tell them, here's my resume. I would love to work for you. Let's get in touch. That letter is usually, turned in with the resume so that all the resumes we looked at, you don't usually just actually turn that in all by itself. The cover letter goes on top and kind of is presenting the resume to them. So what that can look like. Here we go. Okay, so this I also got from this website, resumegenius.com. There are a ton of websites out there that have all of this information. You can go look at these websites and look at lots more examples if you're interested. But their cover letter, it has the address here of the person that they're writing to. It says, "Dear hiring manager's name." So if you know that the hiring manager's name is, let's say her name is Sally Smith, you would say, "Dear Miss Smith," or "Dear Miss Sally Smith." And then they say here, "I'm writing to apply for the restaurant manager opening at Mod Sequel." That's apparently the name of the restaurant. They basically talk about themselves a little bit, that they have experience, that they basically really want the job. They describe that they're efficient, enthusiastic, they're a strong leader. They talk about some of their skills here. They wrap up by saying, "It would be a privilege to discuss your restaurant manager position in more detail. I'm happy to come by whenever it's most convenient for you. Thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you." And then they sign it with their name. So attached to this on the back would be their resume. They've also included up here at the top, it again has their email address, it has their phone number, it has their mailing address. Although that information would also be on the resume, they're basically kind of covering their bases. They are giving this company multiple chances to write back to them or call them or to be in contact. Because again, this person really wants to work at this restaurant, but there's probably a lot of other people that want to work there too. There are times in the working world where there are a lot of jobs available, and there's times where there's not as many jobs available, and everybody out there is working really hard to get some of the jobs that are available. It kind of the amount of open available jobs will go up and down throughout your life. Right now in the world, based on, what's going on, there are, fewer jobs available right now. Some people have lost jobs. So this would be the time where when there are jobs available, there are a lot of people working really hard to win those jobs. So this is just a real life right now, great example of a time when the people that are going to get those jobs are going to be the ones that have really great educations with really great skills, and also a really great ability to present themselves to those companies and to those opportunities. One of the saddest things would be that you have amazing skills, that you go to, you finish high school and you go to college and you learn amazing things. You do great in a lot of areas and there's a job available, but if you don't communicate that effectively to the company, they might pick somebody else. So taking time to practice these skills to become a really great writer and be able to communicate to this company that I'm the best one for the job is a skill in itself that is worth practicing. So I hope that has been useful to you. If you guys have any more questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A box. My hope for you is that you continue to practice your writing abilities, not just creative writing, which we've talked about a lot this week, which has been really fun, but also your more professional, practical writing abilities. Continue working on your essay writing ability in your classes at school. Take the time to think about, if there's one thing that I could leave you with, it might be, if I wrote a resume right now, what would it look like? What could I put down on a resume for my life right now? And if you find yourself thinking, I don't know what I would put down. Do I have skills that I could put down on a resume? Do I have volunteer experiences? Do I have foreign languages that I'm really good at? If you can't think of a lot of things like that you would put down, that's a good starting point. You could start in your life right now working to gain those abilities, the types of skills and abilities and that you could put on a resume in the future. Even if they, even if the company that you end up wanting to work for doesn't actually need you to speak 3 languages, the fact that you could is pretty cool and might make you stand out from all those other people. All right. So we have one question here. A viewer asks, at what age can you start working in general? So the age that you're allowed to get a job is usually different from state to state and country to country. Sometimes you can start volunteering at a younger age than you're allowed to start working for money. So you'd have to look up the rules. You could ask your parents, or you could research on the internet what the rules are for where you live. But even if you're not old enough to start by getting a summer job or getting a part-time job where you live, you can always look at helping opportunities or volunteer opportunities. Because any type of opportunity where you could work at a charity or even just help out at some organization, you'll start learning really valuable skills. Like, how do I work with other people? How do I communicate to other people? If you can help out in an area that you're interested in, even maybe you have a friend or a parent or a family member that works in a job that you're like, I think I might want to do that job too. If you can, see if you could go to work with them sometime. And then you could actually observe for yourself what it's like to work there. You could find out, this looks really interesting. I want to learn more about this. Or you might find out, oh, I'm not interested in this. I've always thought one of the best reasons to do internships is to find out if it's actually something that you want to pursue more. I had a student one time who did an internship, and after I think 1 or 2 days, they came back and they said, I definitely do not want to do this for a living. I don't want to do this as a job when I grow up. And we said, great. We just saved so much time. You didn't go to college or go out there and spend a lot of money learning to do this skill, that you spent a few days doing it, and quickly learned, I don't actually like this. That's a great result of an internship. And that person went on to find a job that they really do like. So that was resumes today. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that answered your question. Okay, great. Awesome. I'm glad that made sense. Yeah, so I'll see you guys back next week. We're going to be doing some more creative writing early next week. I'm going to be teaching a couple webinars on poetry. So if you're interested in learning about haiku, which is a type of poem, and learning about poetry in general, I'll see you back on Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.